I have a couple announcements first before we get started, and then I'm going to turn it over to Linda Woodward, our chairperson. But Jan has brought some cards that are over on the table, and are those for everybody to just take? Sure. Whoever, first come, first served. But this is kind of how artists spread their name. It's like a business card, but with an image. So it's very informative, websites and things like that, and smaller ones that fit in wallets. So that's that. Over there, where the sign-in sheet is, please be legible so you can get on our mailing list. If you can't read it, you don't get the email, it just gets bounced back. But we have an image list, and on the other side, an artist statement and an artist bio, that type of thing. The artist statement is, when the artist is not here, it kind of says, here's their philosophy, kind of where they're coming from. The image list corresponds to numbers that are on each of these pedestals or each of the works. And it gives you the titles, the mediums, dimensions, that type of thing. So if you don't know what something's called, you go to the image list and it gives you all that information. So if you're writing papers about it, or if you're going to be doing sort of compare and contrast or gallery write-up for your classes, this is the good information. If it's not enough information, you go to the website, which is on here, and you can go to the blog and see all kinds of things. More info than you probably ever want to know about a particular artist, which is what you need for a good paper. So, to introduce Jan, I'm going to turn it over to our chairperson of the Arts Department in Humanities, Linda Woodward.
Thank you all for coming. Before we start our program with Jan, I'd like to say thank you to two people. These shows take a lot of work, a lot of planning to put together, and Robbie Wood does every single one of them, takes them up, puts them back away, contacts the artist and does all the work. And also Fong Chow, who arranges all of the food. So could we have a hand for those two people? So many times people ask me, where do you find artists for these shows? Do they come to you? Where do they come from? It's kind of at times a collaborative effort. The reason I'm introducing Jan today instead of Robbie is that Jan Harrell is my instructor. And I had to travel all the way to Tennessee, to Aramont School of Crafts, and take a class from her to find out that she was from Houston. So when I was on sabbatical a few years ago, I went on to the Gliselle and took a metals and jewelry class from her there. She's one of those people that's a dynamic teacher, and everyone loves her in the class, and they come back time and time again. Jan has been a working artist, I think, for about 35 years. She has her BFA from Lubbock, Texas Tech, in metals and copper enameling, and has her MFA from U of H in sculpture. She is an enamelist extraordinaire, as you can see here. Most enamel pieces are kind of just small little jewelry pieces that you do. Jan thinks large scale. So I'm not going to talk any more about her. I'm going to let her speak with you, but let's welcome Jan Harrell.
Well, I've got to thank Robbie who put up with hauling all this stuff in here and looking for pedestals. He was a great help. And Fong did a beautiful, I send artwork out and I don't ever know what they're going to pick for the logo or the flyer, and it's kind of interesting when they pick out that piece, which probably wouldn't have been the one I picked, but I don't care. And then, of course, Linda, who we spent a great time at Aramont, and it was great to have her come down for the sabbatical and learn more about enameling. If you don't know what enamel is, I'll just give you my elevator talk. It's ground glass fused at 1500 degrees to a metal base for 2 or 3 minutes. So every color that's on here goes into a kiln. It comes out 1500 degrees. If you can see the picture on the little handout there, it's hot. It melts the glass. The glass looks like sugar when you put it on. We sift it on. We can wet pack it. We can do other things with it, but basically you're putting ground glass on, and it comes out, and it's a beautiful vitreous surface. If you've taken ceramics, you wait forever. It goes into the kiln, and 8 hours later, the pots come out, and there they are. Well, we're a little bit more immediate, but we go in 20 or 30 times. So I guess it's a trade-off all the time. This group of work is the third in a series of what I call kind of the Muse series. When I was in grad school at U of H, my thesis show was 18 feet long, and it had 12 rings on it, and one of the rings is in that Tiffany box over there. So it was 12 different oversized rings that were really large, and there were no cases on top of them. And I really liked the fact that people could get up close and look at the work like you're doing here, and there wasn't a vitrine over the top of it keeping people away from seeing the surfaces. And I really like that tactile quality. These are offerings for the muse, so if you were trying to lure this sexy woman to your house, you'd have to have some good stuff. And these are the good stuffs that will bring her into your lair. So you have a room perfumer. I'll touch the stuff, I'd rather you didn't. But these are loose shaped forms. I form everything out of copper, most of it's copper, and then I start putting the glazes on. I use a lot of found objects in my work. This is laser cut. It has 24 karat gold embedded in it, just so you'll know some of the different qualities that I put in here. A center for the room, so when she's not around, you can keep those roses underneath there. I'll just kind of take a little tour around, because you won't understand all the work unless you are told about it. A lot of these have containers. So inside of this, that looks like tissue paper, is enameled white copper that I've forced into here to make it look like it was tissue paper stuffed in it. This is a compact, and it's the Vitruvian woman. Not to be confused with a Vitruvian man, because who cares about him? And then the compact, she's a big girl. She's a big girl. I like working at this scale because when I was making jewelry work, it just seemed so small, you know, and you'd have to come up and show people the stuff, and they'd say, oh, you have really good craftsmanship. Well, you can really see really good craftsmanship when it's blown up this big. Trophy wife ring. Who doesn't know someone that needs this? And of course, it's in a Tiffany box. There's components, so these come apart. Sterling silver on the back. I spent a lot of time at my friendly plater down the street who did some gold plating for me. It's a cupcake. Who doesn't need a cupcake this large? It has several components to it. I formed the cherry. All of this is metal. This is metal, and then this is 24 karat gold that's embedded into glass. So the nice part about that is it never tarnishes. You don't have to polish this 24 karat gold. It's there forever. And of course, you need a perfume container. My muse is a little funky, so she wears sulfuric and nitric acid. Don't know why, but she does. And then this is a perfume funnel, so when you're out of your sulfuric and nitric acid, you have to put more in there. And then it comes in this really heavy steel box because you don't want anybody lifting this out of your house. And etching. You know, these are traditional jewelry techniques and old, really classic enameling techniques that are used in kind of a funky way. And I sought all of that. Just, you know, keeps me on the streets. And a tiara and a pillow. So this is metal. I formed it. I put both of the laces together. It goes into the kiln. This barely fit in my kiln. So when I'm lifting it in, the elements of the kiln are this close to the piece, 1,500 degrees. And then there's so if I was a muse, this would fit me, but I'm not. Yeah, it's a small deer, sorry. It was dead before I got it. This is what I call my children. They're the fruit of my loins. So it's done in French. And if it had perfume in here, it actually would squirt. I just love repurposing things like that. And of course, the muse would need a lot of flowers sent to her. This is really thin copper, but because I put enamel on both sides of it, it sturdies it up. I cut these holes in here with an acetylene torch so it looks like lace. And when this comes out of the kiln, it looks like a piece of taffy. It's just like this. And I have to get my gloves out and form it, and I've got about the count of 5 to get it molded back into shape. And that's one firing. And then you do the inside. And then you put more on the outside. And you chase it back and forth, and we hope you don't have any marks on here that made it look like it was in a kiln. Is anyone in here familiar with enameling besides Linda and a couple of my students? Most people think of enameling as poison eggs. Fabergé eggs are enameled also. So those are, when somebody says, what do you do? I said, well, I do like Fabergé eggs or the poisoning. They go, oh yeah, that. But they don't think about this. And I would rather be known for this. Well, I wouldn't mind being known for Fabergé. You know, some of my work is a little gaudy. I don't care. I used to do it to embarrass my children, but they don't embarrass so easily now. These are sheep shears, and then I made this really intricate case that they fit inside of. And then it's about a personal groomer. Brazilian Buzz speaks of. And then a pearl necklace. I really like the front of this box because it really speaks about boobs and breasts. Rotary hammers. That's kind of what I think about when I'm working out. So this is a mannequin, and it's flocked, and these are giant pearls, and each one of them has silver that runs through the center of them. This was a cameo off my mother's bracelet. And then the candies that everyone seems to love. This was a box that I found. It was tin, so I covered it with gold leaf. But I made this box to fit it. So when you have a found object, getting something to fit when it's metal is one thing, but getting it to fit when it goes into the kiln 20 times and works, that's even more fun to do. So I formed this out of a sheet. It was a sheet of copper. I made a form out of wood, and I hammered this inside of it. I did that more than once. Yes. I took it out, the metal got work hardened, I heated it up, it got soft again, I put it back in the form. I hammered it some more. I did that about 7 times. Then I took it out and cut this edge. I made it soft again, and I started rippling this edge. That just doesn't happen when you pour water on metal. It doesn't just like do that. Then I started enameling it. You can't have a bad side. Both sides have to look good. And then I wanted a bow that sat up on top, and it goes through with a sterling silver around the stove. The candies are really fun to do. Each one of them has an etching on the back that has the birth and death information about my parents, when my kids were born, when I had neck surgery, when I went to grad school. So even though you need a back on a piece, you can make it worthwhile. When you're working on the piece, you like to think that there's part of you that's going into the work. And my daughter wanted the one with the cherries. That's for her. And the last piece here is a hand fan. This one was especially difficult because each side of it had to be shown. I grew up in Japan. My dad was not in the service. He was a cotton broker. But I grew up there from 6 years old until I was 8. So a lot of the things that, the colors that I use have kind of a Japanese lean to them. I think the gold that's in them echoes a lot of the Japanese imari wear that I saw while I was over there. So For those of you who think I don't have this distinctive background, you never know when something will hit you and that comes out in your work, because I really wasn't aware of this having a Japanese feel to it till a student told me, that looks like Japanese stuff. And I went, oh, okay. I don't know. This is actually a stand of my mother's that she used to put Japanese mirrors on.
We're missing one.
Oh, that one. Oh, well, you're missing two of them.
And I'm here because I want to give.
This is probably the most recent piece of work that I finished, and it's a teapot that doesn't have tea in it, and cups that you can't really drink out of. And then there's, you know,
Also copper?
all of this is copper, so this piece was formed. Are y'all interested in the technique here?
Yes.
Because, you know, someday this will all be done on the internet without me involved. Nobody will touch metal and they won't know how to solder, but not today. So it's a piece of metal that's formed to fit this. I soldered the seam. I put a base on it. I put all the enamel in it, and these probably took 10 or 12 firings. It has gold foil embedded in it. I make a bezel that goes around the bottom. And then it has to fit this thing that I ordered off of eBay. And these are just really great chemical funnels. This part comes out of here. And who doesn't like a handle that's a saw blade? Can't possibly be used. And then, you know, the breastometer. The healthometer scale, if anybody remembers that far back, has a logo that's just like this, except it doesn't have a nipple on it. So it just seemed perfect for this, and it actually works. This could be a wall piece, and you just press into it, because it does work. And those are ribs, if you didn't know. Any questions about the work? Why I do it?
Yeah, why do you do it?
You know, it's just something I have to do. I used to do 12 of a number. You know, I'm talking about jewelry work. He makes 12 of something, and then, you know, they didn't sell for a lot. And then as I got older, I thought, probably not going to get famous for that. It doesn't really make me happy. So why am I not doing other stuff that doesn't sell that makes me happy? So now I like to do one-ofs. And I think, you know, if people enjoy the work, they will come. Ever since I started on this whole Muse series, which has probably started in 2005 or 6, I've had a lot of recognition for it. When you love what you do, you know, they always say that. If you love what you do, people will notice. And so.
Right here. Where do you find your found objects?
Oh, I go on these junk trips. I also have students that know what I like, and they drop it by my house.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so, hey. Right now I'm in the market for a really large book. It needs to be 3 inches deep and 15 inches long. Or longer. No, it needs to at least be 3 inches deep. So,
What are you going to do with it?
well, that's for me to know.
That's a shame.
Sometimes students bring me pieces, but I'll walk through a store or something and I'll see something and I'll just go, oh, I know exactly what that's going to be. And then in the next day or two, I'm back at my bench working on it. Some pieces don't work that easily. And then some of them are just headaches. You know, like, you know, they sit on your desk for a while and you think, it's not quite there yet.
For your glass, before you said you melted the glass. Now, do you use colored glass for the colors, or do you add something to it?
No, I use glass that's already ground up. But, you know, glass, when it's made in the factory, comes out in this big chunk.
Right.
And then they grind it down for you. And so
Okay.
there's various grits of it, starting at about 82 you know, like face powder, like 425. So there's all different sizes that we use to get a different
Do
product.
they come colored or?
They come colored,
Oh, okay,
yes.
was my question.
You know, I will work hard on something, but I'm not going to smelt my own glass. Because I would lose more money than I do. Yes?
What was the most difficult thing about first learning the enameling process?
Finding a good instructor. Enamels went through a horrible stage, I think about 1970 to about 1985. You know, it was the arts and craft movement, as I call it. I guess I can cuss too. And people were doing stuff in little trinket kills, and they were doing the little threads and stuff. So when you told people you enameled, it was like, you know, I don't know if I really want to learn this. So there's been this wonderful research in using it as a product that's more about color than about the technique. So finding somebody that could teach me enough of the technique so I can impart it with what I want to say, I think was the hardest thing to do. I've been teaching at LaSalle for 20 years. My program started with one enameling class, and now I have 3, and they're usually all full. I have people that I've been teaching for 15 years. They compete against me in shows now.
Cool.
And so sometimes we don't tell each other when we've applied until we have gotten in. So it's a great group of people. It's a non-degree program. It's continuing adult ed. There is a certificate of achievement you can get. We only meet 1 day a week for 3 hours. We have some open lab space that people can come and use the facilities. And we're getting ready to bulldoze the building in 2015 and have fabulous new facilities. I hope I live that long.
Over there, in the same region?
In the same area. So for a year and a half, we'll be off site, and then we'll come back, and then we'll have vents and clean and kill. And for my 2 students that are here, that would be nice, because it is kind of a messy. We're right in, mixed in with jewelry.
Is it an extremely expensive form of?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if you can work in black and white, you're pretty good, but you get to be, it's like, I don't know how many quilters I have here, but if you've ever quilted, you can't just own a little bit.
No, you can't.
No, you have to have like every color. And I have a lot of colors, but people want a lot of colors. And then there's the whole thing. If you just want to enamel, you could make panels all day long and never learn how to hit the metal. But in my class, you have to learn how to hit the metal.
This brings me to a question. In Chile, the use of copper hammering is quite
Yes.
widespread. Do you do any of just that, or all of that you are involved in the enameling? Or do you do combinations like artwork within hammering?
Yes. In my class, you learn metalsmithing and enameling, whether you want to or not. I assign projects that go over a 2-year period of time, and you'll do 12 techniques that are enamel techniques, and they all include a little bit of metal work. And if you want to keep up with your peers, which there's a lot of peer pressure in my group, you've got to hammer along metal.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned from Fabergé all the way over to Chilean type art. Quite a difference in those two
Yes.
genres.
Yeah, we touch them all.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
The Fabergé is such fine art on gold.
it is.
And we have the Hermitage. Wow. I'm just wondering how many of your students would prefer the tools that over the larger piece.
I don't really
You teach those things.
care. It's my program. I was a jeweler first. My first degree was I had a majored in jewelry, minored in enameling. So I know all about that. I was a diamond person for 10 years. I know all about the jewelry end of it. And I try to be cognizant that people come to me for different reasons. Most of them have already taken 2 classes in jewelry before they get to me. So when they come in and they want to do something this big, I know what they want, but I have a specific way of getting them to do that eventually. So they work a little bit larger, and then we work a little bit smaller. One of my best things that I say all the time is, it says art school on the outside of the building. It's not studio time, it's not your home away from home, it's not your free lab, well, it's not free. But if it says art school on the outside, I get to enjoy what you get out of it. Any other questions?
Yes, I do have one. Do you do any particular features for the fun of it? You said, I like this, let me see what I do, or you have any special meaning once you start working with them? Is it like getting in love with that piece and finding a different meaning, or you just, I want to do this and that's it?
I think these are all, they all have technical challenges that I really enjoy trying to, figure my way around them, the puzzle of it. Like, I tried to saw this with a jeweler's saw on a round surface. That wouldn't make sense to a lot of you, but you can't get your saw in there. So then you have to think of, what am I going to do to get in there? So, you have to get a laser cutter to do it. And so I love the challenging part. I'm sure it's what's keeping me just this side of Alzheimer's. I don't have to sit around and figure out other things. The tiara over there, I wanted them to bob around because, it needs some action. So I had to figure out a system that would support that. And that's all a learning curve. And the nice part about figuring things out like this is that my students get to see it the next day, and then this becomes something that they don't have to learn on their own. They learn it from me.
So do you ever start over from
I have a big bucket. I have a big bucket. It's right in the corner of the studio, and I just throw the things in there, and then I go sell them for scrap metal. So I've got a place that they'll weigh it up with the glass on it, because really, you don't need to look at your mistakes all day long, every day. There are enough people around you that remind you of your mistakes. But the bucket of stuff, you can get rid of, and you can sell it for $3 a pound at C&D Scrap. And that's what I do. When the bucket gets full, I take it, and I don't have to remember any of that. I make a lot of mistakes. I don't really, a lot of teachers will tell you to draw, draw. My dad was a tinkerer. He loved to undo stuff and put it back together again. And I grew up taking stuff apart and putting it back together again. It's easier for me to actually work with a piece of metal than to draw it. Now, I will draw connections that I want to use for jewelry and stuff like that, but I'd rather just start sawing it. And there's something about that, the weight of the piece, the tactile quality, that in my eyes, I know if I'm on beam on it or not. Because I'll go, oh, that just looks bad, and it goes in the corner in the bucket. I buy a lot of copper. I buy 3 by 8 foot sheets, and I use them all.
What gauge copper do you work in?
I like 17-18 gauge, which is 1 millimeter thick, because I like to hammer. You can't get ripples in really thin stuff, except, these. The fan over there is 36 gauge, which is foil, which is really, really thin. Any questions about the specific pieces? The group I did before this was called Vanitas, and it was boudoir items, giant hairbrushes, combs, mirrors, perfume bottles, what else? Cat pin holders. The series before that was called Banquet, for the muse, and it was giant plates, knives, fork, and spoon, candelabras. So if you see my website, I don't sell off of it. It's www.janharrell.com. I'm not the bodybuilder. The other one that doesn't look quite similar to me. But you can see all of the work on there, and you can see the jewelry work that I used to do before I started doing this.
Would you say that you're more towards the female body or like the accessories to it?
I think so.
Okay, like, but do you like go out of that comfort zone or?
No,
So you kind of have a theme you stick with.
it's really easier to, kind of put some blinders on what you want to produce. I can do anything. I do baby plaques that have birth information about children on it. I do Christmas tree ornaments. I'm not proud. Because you learn something from every single thing you interface with.
What would you say is kind of your muse for that whole idea? I'm sticking with that.
I don't know. The best thing for me, and I think it was on the back side of that information, is I do hot yoga. I've been doing it for 12 years, and it's a real nice calm spot. And when I'm laying there, that's when my ideas come to me, and I have a sketchbook out the car, and I jot down my ideas. So I don't know how many of you are producing artists, but sometimes you wonder where your next idea is going to come from, and you think maybe you're out. You've used up everything that the universe has given you. That happens to a lot of us. And then you just need to hit a hot yoga class. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I encourage all you guys to come check out the show often. It's going to be up for a month. The next show is the student show. So I encourage you all to apply for that, to submit, and have it juried. And it's in or out. You just have to learn the lessons. And that's in December, right at the end of November. Also, we're doing a canned food drive. So I encourage you guys all to bring stuff over to our canned food box. And we're going to do a giant sculpture out of that on the 22nd, I think. Something like that. But everybody's help is welcome. But please bring cans and come help us build that sculpture. So thanks, Jan.
Thank you.